So this is going to be the part 2 of the 9.7 video lesson. So the part 1 I left off talking about the key that will help you determine which sign combination you will have. So obviously if both the sign between the B and the sign between the C, the sign between the second and the third terms are positive, then everything is positive, so that's easy. But if the middle term has a negative sign in front of it, but the last term has a positive sign in front of it, the two signs inside your parentheses will be negative. Why? Well, you want to have a negative in front of the B, which means there has to be a negative in there. You can't get a negative out of two positive numbers. But you also want those two numbers to multiply to a positive number. So if you want to have a negative somewhere in there, but you want to multiply up to a positive, the only combination will work is if both numbers are negative. Because negative times negative gives you a positive, yet you can get a larger negative number by combining two smaller negative numbers. If both the second and the third term have a negative in front of them, then one of the numbers has to be a positive, the other one has to be a negative. The reason being is the only way you can multiply to a negative is to multiply a negative by a positive. So one has to be a positive, one has to be a negative. Which one, you don't know, so that's going to be kind of your trial and error here as well. Before we finish this video lesson, I am going to do another example. So we'll do one more problem, so let me pull that problem up. So here we have 3n squared plus 14n minus 5. So pretty similar to the problem we just did. And it's a trinomial that you need to factor. Just like the previous problem, you have something in front of that n squared. Which means you can't just do the 9.6 style where you would write your two parentheses out and then you would put an n here and an n here and be done with it. No, because n times n is n squared and you have a 3n squared. So that doesn't work. You also can't factor anything out like we did the first three problems at the start of this video lesson, because the 3 in front of here doesn't go into either the 14 or the 5. So can't factor out anything. So what can we do? Well, we write our two parentheses because we know we're going to end up with two parentheses. And we start looking at the various numbers that we have. First, let's take a look at the 5 at the very end. Technically, you should be looking at the 14 and the 5, but the last term is more important. The term that you multiply to is typically more important. And in this case, you want to look at you don't actually need the middle number yet. You don't have to worry about what adds up to 14. You worry about what multiplies to 5 and what multiplies to the first term, the 3. So what multiplies to 5? Well, it's 1 and 5. Nothing else really. It's pretty simple. And then you take a look at the first term, the 3, and you figure out what it's going to multiply to get you 3. Again, pretty easy, a 1 and a 3. So you know that your number combination is going to be 1, 3, 1, 5. So in the first spot you have either a 1 or a 3, that comes from here, and in the second spot you'll either have a 1 and a 5, which comes from there. So 1, 3, 3, 1, and here 1, 5, or 5, 1. You don't know which ones will work yet. Now let's take a look at the signs. We have a plus sign here and a minus sign at the end. So you have to have a plus minus, because you're multiplying to a minus at the very end, and the only way you can multiply to a negative number to have a negative product is to have a plus being multiplied by a minus. So I'm going to either have a plus here and a minus here, or vice versa. I don't know yet. Unfortunately, the only way to find out is to try and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then you try the other combination. And then let's take a look at our numbers. I have in the first position 1, 3, or 3 or 1. I don't know what's going to work, so I'm going to write 1 here, 3 here. And in the second position I have 1 and 5. 1, 5. I have no idea if that's the right order, but I have to start somewhere, so I'm starting this way. And also don't forget about the n, which comes from that n squared. Okay, good. Is this the right form? We don't know. The only way to find out is to FOIL it and see what we get. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and FOIL. 1n, so, or just n times 3n, that gives us the 3n squared. Good so far, 3n squared. Then n times negative 5 gives us our negative 5n. 1 times 3n gives us our positive 3n. And then 1 times negative 5 gives us our negative 5. Now the first and the last are correct. 3n squared, yes. Negative 5, yes. But in the middle we have a negative 5n and a positive 3n. If we simplify that, we get a negative 2n. It's not even close to 14n. So whenever we change this, we have to change this drastically. We know we're not even close. The numbers are right, just the order is way off. So I'm going to rewrite this again. But now I'm actually going to critically think about my positioning. Now I know I want a 14n, which means I have to multiply to a large positive number. So how can I position this? I want it in such a way where my 3n is being multiplied by the 5, and it's a positive 5 and a positive 3n, because that'll give me a 15n, and then if my 1n multiplies by the 1 and that is negative, it'll be 15n minus 1n, which will give me my 14n. So how do I get about that? Let me write my n's real quick. Then I'm going to make it possible for me to multiply the 3 by the 5. I'm going to write the 3 here. I'm going to write the 5 here. And I want to make sure they're both positive. Oops, that was a mistake. Hold on a second. I think my brain melted a little bit right there. So obviously I have to, if I'm writing 3 here, the other first position number has to be a 1 there. But my 5 can either go here and here. Doesn't really, well, it matters because I'll multiply first, then outers. I want my outer combination to be that 15. So I'm going to write my 5 here, which means my 1 has to go here. Again, I need to have that n. Let's see if this is dried off. So the n is right here. And over here has to be, well, the 1. That's what's left. So that still works. My number combination is correct. You know, I have a 3n in there, I have a 1n in there from these, and then I have a 1 and a 5. I know I have to have a plus and a minus, but as we discussed, I want this 5 positive. So I'm going to put a plus here and a minus there. Okay, let's see if that works. 3n times 1n, that's 3n squared. That was easy. 3n times 5 plus 15n. That looks good. Negative 1n, or sorry, negative 1 times 1n gives us a negative 1n. Negative 1 times 5 gives us our negative 5. When we simplify this, 15n minus 1n is positive 14n. I'm going to drop this down, 3n squared plus minus 5. And that's it. Perfect. So this was actually a good problem to do because we got to shuffle things around quite a bit. The first time we tried it, we got a negative 2n, which wasn't even close to the 14n. So when that happens, when you're not even close to the answer you're looking for, think critically. Again, I looked here and I knew I wanted a large positive number, which meant my two large numbers, my 3 and the 5, had to be multiplied together. And it had to be positive. So both the 3 and the 5 had to be positive. And that's how I set them up. I made sure that the 3 and the 5 could be multiplied, and both the 3 and the 5 were positive. And that would give me my 15n. And then if my 1n was negative, 15n minus 1n would give me that 14n that I wanted. So that's how I set it up. So a lot of times you have to start out just to randomly plug in your numbers. You'll have the right number combination and you'll have technically the right signs, but the order might be totally incorrect. You might get it on the first time. You don't know. So try it and see if it works. If it does, great. If it doesn't, analyze your problem, see how close you got, and based on that, make your changes. And if you have to try it 3 times to get it, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes you do need to try it more than twice to get the right answer. That's okay. As long as you get to the right answer and you don't spend too much time doing it, you're perfectly okay. So thank you very much. I'm going to have a homework video up in just a little bit. So if you still have some questions, watch that video while I will work out 3 more problems. Thank you.